this 1970s weight is working very well for you.
Yeah, we brought it for you because it's vintage.
It's fire. Yeah, I'm gonna lift it above my head.
Yeah. All right, we'll start it there. What's up, Robbie?
What up?
Slobby Robby? Robbie. What do you go by on?
Well, my friends call me Rob. My mom calls me Robert. And my landscaping guy thinks my name is Bobby.
Roberto.
So we'll just go with all of that.
And we're in the desert. We're in Palm Desert. You're from a desert, right? Tucson?
Yeah, the desert.
The desert.
One of the driest places on earth. But I know you guys get pretty dry out here too.
Yeah, we get dry, but actually we got quite a bit of rain last week.
Yep.
Pretty gnarly.
I think we all did.
What about you down there? Yeah.
Oh, dude, my Vegas store. We had flooding. We had flooding at the Tucson store. It's crazy. That's good. We need it.
Yeah, we're in a drought. I don't know. California is. But I don't know if your state is as well.
Oh yes, long drought, right? Decades long.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be. We steal water from Colorado and you guys. We actually have no water.
Totally.
And it's a big problem. I really don't understand the system. I mean, the amount of showers and the length of showers I'm taking it's got to be a problem.
Maybe you're the root of the cause. No, there's
there's
actually a lot of groundwater here too that they pull out of the earth. I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a bunch of oases and desert hot springs. Are you familiar with the geography in this area?
Yes.
Yeah.
We came to what's it called? What's the name? What's the Joshua Tree?
Yeah,
What in the hell?
Up the hill. Yeah,
we
world
came
famous.
Yeah, we came to Joshua Tree. I mean, we drive through here all the time on the way to LA. But we actually one time just took an extra night and stopped with Joshua Tree and really made ourselves more familiar. We were just here about 3 weeks ago. And we did the same thing. Now I like it so much, we'll just take an extra day going to LA and come here.
Yeah, a lot of people go from LA to Joshua Tree. It's nice. It's the elevation. If you like stars, stargazer, you can see all that kind of stuff. No light pollution. Pretty safe.
Right. No, yeah, we have that too in Tucson. In fact, it's one of the darker places, in the U.S. at night. So we have a very similar setup.
Yeah, they even passed a law to where you can't have a certain amount of lights and the whole thing just for the light pollution, which is pretty cool because in L.A. you're not going to get that.
I was talking about how dark the freeway was from coming in tonight. And I'm telling her, we went to the rental car place, bro. Like, they gave me this giant, like 5-ton pickup truck, bro. Like almost like a dually.
Like a dually? I was going to say like a dually, big old.
Oh, it's big. And so I'm telling her, I've had a few drinks. We're in fucking Palm Springs in this dark ass canyon, and that thing is not skinny, bro. Between me and the semis, we're cutting it close.
Yeah, you're all doing one of these.
Oh, bro. I could do that. Someone could do this.
To
me
you, in a smart car, cruising by.
That thing's fire.
Yeah. Those are some pretty interesting shoes. What are those right there?
These are Versace, definitely referencing like 90s like rave culture, like big like platform like club shoes. But these are probably my favorite shoes, bro. I'm obsessed. I like all white. I like all black, all white. I like blocking, but I don't know what it is about these shoes. They're just Frankenstein meets Donatella Versace. You know what I mean?
They're nice. They're sick. How did you get into the fashion? Is it just you grew up? Like, what age was it? Like, I'm conscious of fashion.
Yeah, I mean, probably with sneakers. To be honest, it sounds like a broken record, but Air Jordan was a big deal when I was a kid. So I went from, maybe like skate shoes and Converse and stuff that was like sort of cheaper and flimsy to getting into like actual athletic shoes. By the time I was in third grade, the Jordan 3 came out, so 1988. And so in third grade, I had the Jordan 3s. In fourth grade, I had the Jordan 4s, etc. And that was, and I really enjoyed like sort of the stylistic aspects, the cracked cement print on the 3. These are things that even at that age, I was pretty attracted to. And it wasn't really about hype. Like I wouldn't say a bunch of my friends were talking about Jordans, but I remember going to the store and being like that's the Mercedes of shoes. I want that. So that I got pretty obsessed with toys and clothes and sort of inanimate objects, false idols at an early age.
Yeah, so like toys and that kind of stuff too. Like what was your TV show, your cartoon growing up?
Oh, He-Man, bro.
He-Man?
I'm He-Man. Masters of the Universe is my jam. Yeah, but I'm a He-Man, actual He-Man himself guy. So I've had I have great photos of me with a themed He-Man birthday party, and I remember assigning characters to certain friends, and I'm like, you're Beast Man, So in real life, I'm probably more Beast Man than I am He-Man, but I'd like to think I'm somewhere in between.
You're like a hybrid.
If He-Man is the sativa and Beast Man's the indica, I'll be the
speaking
hybrid.
of hybrid, we're actually in an awesome shop. Thanks to Bradley, the owner, and Francis and the team at Libra letting us use this place for our backdrop.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
What are your impressions walking in?
I love it. I've been to a lot of weird dispensaries. I have a store in Vegas. And I remember one morning I couldn't sleep. I got up at like 6 a.m. and I'm like, what dispensary's open? And I went to some place that used to be a bank, and it was like all wooden with like drawers, and it's so weird. It was like office building vibe. Where I'm from in Tucson, the dispensaries tend to be a lot smaller, and you don't really have like all these nice sort of eye candy to play with either. So and this is my second dispensary today. And this is definitely far superior. I'm a visual person. Aesthetics are a big deal for me, so I enjoy places like this. For someone like me who's helped people consult with opening stores and layout of stores, you can just tell you got like a nice flow, circular flow going. And I'm pretty snobby when it comes to interior design, so I like it.
Yeah, you designed your own shop, like you do all you put the Simpsons out in the window to get people to come in. I'm sure. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I do all of our graphic design. I've done every logo we've ever had, flyers, you name it, T-shirts. My first degree was actually in graphic design in another lifetime. So this is before Illustrator, and I'm so old that I actually drew things and inked them, and that turned into graphics. So I was scanning ink drawings and then adding color to them on Illustrator after. That's how old I am.
That's good to know that you were, even back then, you were conscious of like, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an art.
Yeah, illustration and graphic design. It was like kind of a double program. So, but I'm telling you, back then, everyone wasn't fluid in. Is the pizza here, babe? Make sure you get extra ranch, please.
We got a pizza coming, yeah. Slobby.
So yeah, I've always been into art. I feel like art, clothes, toys, these are all like the same thing. It's all one thing.
Yeah, and then being really into it, like I'm a music guy, tour around in a band and stuff like that, and I'm a collector of vintage, but like 1960s and 70s guitars, pedals. Yeah. So I get what you mean when you see something that maybe someone doesn't see the value in it. It's sure. It's worth something, but also worth something more to you as a person. It's as much as you are willing to pay for something, right? That's kind of how they.
Right, I think that's
fluctuates the market.
I think that's the name of the game right there. So like, right now. So when I first started out, like, stuff like bootleg designer was sort of frowned upon, and I would get trolled about it all the time. Whereas like now, Travis Scott, Kylie Jenner, all these people are wearing it, and it's like hot fire, almost hotter than the actual designer stuff. Eye of the beholder, mixed with trends and the power of social media influencing trends. Like right now, rap tees, let's talk about, in the sense of music, band tees, rap tees. When people come in, I always tell them, if you have any music stuff, like it's a winner, But now, like Marvel and DC, the market is skyrocketing on that stuff. So again, it's somebody seeing it and going, oh, that reminds me of when I was a kid, or it reminds me of watching X-Men, or reminds me of my older cousin, or just the colors, the primary colors, or there's something there that's grabbing people, and again, what is it worth to them? And all of a sudden, you got this stuff. When I first opened the store, I would sell Marvel tees for $30-$40, and now like get yourself a big all over print Wolverine shirt, you're talking about $200 or $300, dude, all day right now. Punisher, Wolverine, Spider-Man, the more all over print, the more zany. Again, stuff that people used to troll me about for wearing,
And what year did that become, like, when did you see it start to spike? Because obviously it wasn't, it takes time for things to kind of, every 30 years it kind of repeats itself with fashion. Sure. Or is that how it works, even with music? And
yeah, or even less. I think that You look at like the golden age of Marvel in the 50s and 60s, mixed, went into like my golden age of Marvel in the 90s, right? So like Uncanny X-Men and, Wolverine getting his own, getting his own project and his own solo title and stuff that was like monumental to me. Here we are, 30 years later again, like you just said, and that's popping. That's a big deal. So my kids, my son's 10, he's getting into Marvel. So things are revolutionary and things are like literally turning like that. And at the same time, some things will never be out of style, So I don't know if Marvel ever went away, because I remember, in the late 90s when eBay came out, I was searching for old Wolverine tees and stuff that I had when I was a kid. So when it comes to trends and the mainstream public latching onto something, you look at stuff like rappers and influencers and the Marvel movies, of course, I'm sure have influenced this sort of popularity, like upswing in popularity. But to me, something like that has never gone away and never been anything but dope,
Nice. Could we talk about your chains? You got there. I see Tommy. You're a big fan of Tommy Polo,
yeah.
and
I like logos.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a mark, so to speak, or a trademark. So the more logos, the better for me. I got my Tommy Hilfiger gangster chain. I got this bootleg Nike Jordan with the man without the face, I like to call him. I got this other weird fake character that someone made up too.
Jesus.
The Last Supper. Got some nice. This is a good one. Got some diamonds, and this is like, I guess, what one aspect of actual bling. People are always like, nice bling,
yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really have a lot of diamonds, but I just realized I do have a little. Nike, of course. I mean, this is like one of my all-time favorite logos. So simple, but so perfect.
And how do you find? Is that trade-in, or is it all accumulated from different spots, or how? Do you remember when you got these?
As a collector, and a jewelry sort of connoisseur or a purveyor, people say I've gotten some great stuff come in the shop on trade-ins. The Jesus is solid rose gold, or I think his skirt is solid rose gold, and I mean he's solid gold, dude. This is a good piece, and it was kind of a pawn shop situation where some dude just wanted to get rid of it. I think I paid $40. I mean it's old gold. It's like old 10K. Then I've had people like hunt me. This one was custom. I got it gold, and then I had the diamonds put on. But I've had like for the Tommy and the Nike, I've had that was just like totally people messaging me on Instagram being like, yo, and this is like sort of 90s urban, you go to these big cities in the 90s and they would have had this kind of stuff. So I didn't have this stuff in Arizona when I grew up, but I'm really discovering more and more places with like big logo jewelry. I had this giant Mercedes. I didn't want to wear it because I didn't want to block the Versace face, but I have this giant Mercedes medallion right now that I just got like a couple weeks ago.
Someone ripped it off the top of a Mercedes, or what?
I got some of those too.
I've seen somebody do that in person. I'm like, how the hell do you do that? And they're all, bah.
Yeah,
like,
well, when I was a kid, that was a big business.
Yeah.
You pop one of those, sell it for $40.
Yeah.
But send you to juvie too.
Oh, shit.
How other people pop them, and then I have two
Gold plate 'em.
Mercedes. I have two Mercedes necklaces that are made from old hood ornaments. Actually, myself. So
Yeah, because they're like nice German engineering. They're built well, and you just dip them, I'm sure. And they're timeless.
I feel like exactly. Yep. I feel like I have some kind of affinity for German goods altogether. I like Mercedes, MCM. I found myself being attracted to. I feel like it's a very classic sense of design and a very straightforward sense of design. A lot like Roman architecture, or things that you can point to that are just very straightforward that will always kind of stand the test of time.
Most definitely, yeah. So what kind of car do you drive? A Mercedes, right? I saw your show and you looked like you were driving like a black Mercedes.
I have two Mercedes right now. I have an 87 SEL sedan extra long, and it's the biggest car they've ever made. It has bulletproof doors, car phone. It was definitely super illegal tint. It was definitely made to pick somebody important up from the airport, or maybe like a mafia don or something. I don't know. Maybe I got it in Tucson, but who knows where it came from? But it's a pretty heavy duty, vehicle. And then I have a 2000 another SE. I like S-Class Benz, like big body Benz, quote unquote. Those are my favorite. But I recently got a Ford Escape to drive my children around in. And I will say that is a very practical car. My rich college kid neighbor was moving out of his house, and he told me he was going to sell it to Carfax for $500.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And I bought it for $400 cash because I had $400 cash at my house, like in a shoebox. And I was like, I have $400 now. And his dad called the notary. I mean, his dad bought him a brand new car, and he was moving. And I mean, to this day, like, I've had it for like 6 months. My dad keeps telling me, "Fuck, man, that is the best investment." Like, I mean, it's a nice vehicle, and I don't usually drive American, but it's nice, for stuff like this, driving through the desert, We've taken it to Sedona, and again, we've taken it to Palm Springs just a few weeks ago. The Benzes aren't cross country vehicles.
Yeah, well, I think we talked on the phone maybe a couple weeks ago, and you were saying that you go to Coachella and you go. Can you tell me an experience about that your first time?
Yeah, I never went.
What you think about it?
I've never went in my whole life, and then I've been styling for DJ Snake a lot. He did Turn Down for What and Taki Taki and a bunch of these hits that came out this summer. He's been buying a lot of clothes from us. Him and I share like similar tastes. He likes bright stuff and all over print. So anyway, been selling clothes to him for a while, and then he needed a special outfit for Coachella, and I designed and created a custom sweatsuit that was tie-dye. With like logos all over print on top of tie-dye. So very Coachella in every sense, the hippie part of it, whatever. And then mixed with sort of this like, hype beast kind of new wave of Coachella goers. So it was I feel like it was the perfect Coachella outfit. As far as Childish Gambino was playing, that's the homie too. So between those two dudes, I felt like it was a no-brainer. I had never gone, and it was an experience. It's hard to describe to some people. I think I would tell some people you should go for sure, and I would tell other people don't go. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of dirt.
A lot of walking around, and one thing that like
a lot of dirt.
A lot of people they don't know about. There's a lot of hype in the private parties. So that some of the like people are more into the private parties. Like Jay-Z's having a party here. This guy's having a party there.
That might have been my ticket. I was
parties.
Backstage with Snake. I had, and there's not much back there, dude.
I mean off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They rent out mansions and stuff.
Oh,
that's
way more my style.
Yeah.
What I experienced, I probably wouldn't go back if it was the same experience. I had VIP, all access to everything, and there was nothing going on.
Yeah,
dude.
I get backstage, cruise around on stage, and it's all just
cool.
production. And it's like
exactly.
It's nothing.
To see the production, Snake has a phenomenal pyrotechnics show. I mean, I get it. It was really cool. The backstage technical stuff was very interesting. But I was expecting. I'm party guy. I was expecting, backstage, DJ Snake, Childish Gambino. There's nothing going on.
Yeah, they have just trailers back there, and that's about it. Yeah,
dead desert space. And I mean, the whole thing, the rigmarole, man. Like, your Uber's only gonna take you this far, and then you gotta hire the little dude on the fucking wheelie cart to drive you up to the gate, and then it's about a 2-mile walk once you get to the gate. So by the end of the night, I mean, I was done.
Yeah, wears you out. Yeah, it's no joke.
I was worn out, and I'm a party animal, bro. I could go 2 days. I've been to you name it, Art Basel, you name anything. I went to Mardi Gras 5 years in a row. I kissed Britney Spears on the mouth.
How did that go down?
How did that go down?
I mean,
not smoothly.
Like you see Britney and you're like,
successfully,
what's up?
But not smoothly. I went to Mardi Gras. This is around the Hit Me Baby One More Time era, and we were going and. This is before the internet, so we get to New Orleans, and my friend's dad, who we're staying with, he's like, Britney Spears is the Grand Marshal of the Bacchus Parade, which is like the drinking parade. It's the craziest one. And so we go to Bacchus, and so I'm in there, and I see her, and I tell my friends, I'm gonna kiss, I'm gonna make out with her. In my head, I was gonna make out with her, And my friends are like, something. I'm the only, just like usual. I'm the only overweight person in the group. So, but I definitely was the most confident person in the group. So anyway, the parade goes, whatever. We all, I'm still learning. It was my first Mardi Gras actually, so this would have been like 2000. And 99, 2000. And so, long story short, she ends up mingling with the crowd. This is, again, before the days of, she definitely had security, but
TMZ, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, it wasn't like
yeah.
that back then, bro. You could chill, So she's mingling. I ended up chatting her up. We ended up sort of coming together in the same space. And I chatted her up, and she's like, "Oh, thanks y'all for coming." And I remember one impression I had was, "God damn, that's a lot of makeup." But you're on a float, and people are looking, but bro, there was a whole nother mask on top. And so we're chatting, and so at the end, I figured, my friends are looking. They were looking. And so, these are those moments when, you either do shit or you don't do shit. That's the way, and I'm the type of person to do shit. And so I just went for a nice hug, and then I figured I'll just go for a peck, and I wasn't oh, it was literally just to do it. But at the same time, all I felt was this tug, and it felt like someone pulling my shirt from the back, but it was actually her security putting his arm around my neck.
Choke you out.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. And then but I did it. But and he didn't I didn't get jumped or anything, but it was a slight drag where you're on your heels and you're
But at least you can say you did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure she still has a crush on me.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah. Have you talked to her or seen her since then? Maybe.
No, I reached out a few times, but
remember that kiss, Brittany? Yeah.
I'm sure she's super busy, but we're all busy.
Yeah. So I want to talk about because we are a desert podcast, high desert, and you're from the desert, and I know you kind of mingle with a lot of people in Los Angeles, and one thing, and I do as well, I go to the Comedy Store, I scout comedians, I do a lot of that kind of stuff, and a lot of people, when they come out here, they're like, "Oh, how do you live out here? I don't get it." But it's you kind of have to, I love the desert, I'm sure you do. It seems like you still live there, right?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then can you tell us just your love for the desert, and let people know why it's so special?
Bro, if you held a gun to my head, I'd probably rather live in Palm Springs or Orange County or frankly than in LA. I love LA, but I wouldn't want to live there. I just feel like there's something to be said for space and headspace, and I really enjoy going to places like Joshua Tree, Sedona. We just went to New Mexico, which is about as rural as it gets, but it was really quiet, and in a really good way. So, to me, I would think of this as a best of both worlds situation because, you drive up to LA anytime you want. I drive to LA anytime I want, and it's not that crazy, and I'm in Arizona. So if I was right here, I'd just go whenever I want. Plus, the outlets here are fire.
You got your Cabazon, yeah.
Cabazon outlets.
What stores do you hit when you're there?
Versace. Oh, man. Almost all of my Versace rings I own. Oh, here, this one right here. This is the first one I ever bought. I have 10 Versace rings, one for every finger, and I bought them all at Cabazon. I'm not even joking. But what I do, I see them. I see them in Vegas, and I see them at the stores, and then they get them 6 months later. But I'm telling you, I got silk Versace pajamas last time I was there, and I'm telling you, they're $1,800 at the store, and they're $300 there. It's ridiculous, bro. MCM, there's an MCM store there now. They hosted us last time they were here, and they gave me a money clip and some other cool stuff. The Gucci store just got remodeled there, and they had Gucci Kids separate, and the women's was almost in a separate room, and now they opened it up into one big thing, and I really like it a lot. I got a couple rings from them too. So the Nike, I gotta say one more spot there that you can't miss. The Nike outlet is very extensive there. That thing is big. I've been to a Nike store in almost every state, and the one you guys have here is huge.
That was your second time there, or how many times have you gone there?
Oh, Cabazon?
Cabazon with the dinosaurs.
every time we come.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the dinosaur thing tomorrow where Pee Wee Herman was.
Yeah, so there's a there's a gift shop inside I think it's a brontosaurus or the long neck. Yeah. So they hollowed it out, and you can go up, there's a gift shop or whatever, but yeah, they painted them, and then even to the left, 100 yards away, there's a whole wannabe Jurassic Park thing with animatronics. It's $10 or something to get in there, but yeah, Pee Wee Herman, yeah, it's crazy. It was just right there. I forget the guy that built it, but they just built it and years back, and nothing but desert, and then it was a truck stop, and you can't miss it when you drive by.
That's one place.
2 30-foot dinosaurs
That's
sticking
one
up.
place that we've just never stopped. So we're going tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, there's like a diner right there too. It's a good spot, you know. And again, in LA, you got freeways intersecting. Here, you got one freeway, the 10, and that's it. You can't get lost. And I love that part of living out here. It's like going to LA, Orange County. It's like, okay, you missed the exit. Over here, it's like no big deal. Just
yeah, I mean, where I'm from, we're on the grid system, bro. So there's no one ways. There's no turning streets. You're going northeast or northeast, southwest, bro. I mean, literally, we don't have very many turning streets or diagonal streets. So yeah, I mean, dude, it's I'm a big fan of California in general. I think it's a pretty gorgeous state. Anywhere I've ever been in California, I'd rather live in California than Arizona any day.
And what brought you? Because I know you opened up a shop in Las Vegas. Why would Vegas? Because you have friends out there, or it seemed like the right spot?
I feel like it was sort of a nice natural progression for us because it's very me, and it's very us, and it's very like flashy and gaudy. I remember going to Vegas one time, and I remember being like, I just really like it here. I like art installations. I like when people dress up. I like when people dress up so much that they're like almost wearing a costume, and that's Vegas in a nutshell. Extra, right?
Extra.
Extra. And I remember one of my employees was like, "Yeah, because it's fucking extra, and you're extra as fuck. Of course you love Vegas." And I was like, "Yes, I do." And I think that when you learn Vegas, I think there's a big difference when I was 21 and I was like, $30 to get into a nightclub? That's ridiculous. And then now, we go to Vegas and we don't pay for anything. So, if you can learn Vegas and maneuver Vegas and, once you know a couple people there, it can be a very welcoming town and it's very industry based. So, I felt like the Southwest, neighboring state, easy to get to. Honestly, some of these things are just plain logistical business choices, but at the same time, it represented my personality and the shop's personality really well. We have a small boutique, but we're moving to the Strip, and we're going to move to a very big, and it's going to end up being our flagship store. Actually, it's going to be our biggest store.
And you also rely a lot on social media to sell your products, right? So you have the storefronts, but you have your whole other side of the business doing that. That's awesome because you don't, it's like you almost don't even need a store, but it's nice to have this is our home base.
Yeah, I call it making money in your sleep, I learned that from eBay. I remember getting on eBay back in the day and waking up with money in my account. And I was like, I like that, Do
you remember your first time on eBay, like hustling like that?
Yeah, well, I started as a buyer, because I'm really into collecting. So I was collecting He-Man, and I was starting to gather, all the He-Men, so to speak, that I had when I was a kid, but also the ones I never got. So like the Sorceress, King Randor, his dad. I got into some of these like rare He-Man that you don't gonna find them at the flea market. So I started getting in, realizing, Europe has this big culture of toy collecting. So there was a lot of people in England with like really rare He-Man. And so I was like, I realized you could message people. Again, this is like early, like social media connection, like realizations. So all of a sudden I realized, wow, I'm not the only one who's willing to pay $20 for a piece of plastic and wait 2 weeks. I'm not the only one who values this stuff. And now all of a sudden there's a website that's showing me a value of how much it's worth. So eBay was actually probably the biggest eye-opener for me to get into this business at all, as a collector first and then as a seller second. My biggest eBay sort of moves early were I was hooked up with this dude whose mom worked for Columbia Paramount Pictures. And, she would send us promo stuff. And so remember, there was like that movie with Jamie Kennedy where he was like a white rapper.
Yeah, Malibu's Most Wanted.
Malibu's Most Wanted.
He's actually a friend of mine.
Oh,
yeah. I've brought him out to the desert a few times, and him and I talk on the phone.
Sick.
Nice dude, yeah.
So remember the tagline was "Don't be hating," and I remember we got this giant box of wife beaters that just said "Don't be hating," and I remember so I sold some of those $20-$30 a piece. I'm beginning. I got the whole box for free. This is promo items. One time she sends us a case of Harry Potter wands. And they're in like these long, like snakeskin style boxes, little velvet inlay, and I'm sure they were, there was a I'm sure there was a grand opening in L.A. where a bunch of underprivileged kids got them, or the friends and family. A lot of times this stuff is friends and family of the cast and crew. Who knows, right? But I'm talking 20, 30 of them, right? So this is the first movie. So I selling them $80, $100, and I'm like, damn, they're wood. They're his wand. They have his, the lightning bolt branded, and I'm like, I hadn't seen the movie yet. I didn't really understand the fandom and stuff. So then, we hold on. This is me and a buddy. So we sell like 5 of them each, $500, whatever I probably made. I was in Europe, and I remember just like being happy to have money in my PayPal that I could just like spend while I was in Europe. I was like, well, that's convenient. And then we came back. We had about 20 or 30 of them left. By the second or third movie, they started going for $300. And that's just $350. This is when I started understanding sort of what I think a lot of people understand now with toys, collectibles, and sneakers especially, that things can really compound. And as time goes on, people want things almost even more. And so I started realizing, like, damn, dude, these things, if I had just held on to, who knows, but if I had held on to the first fucking 10 or 20, and held out till like the 4th or 5th movie, when they were at their peak, things that you can look at now, like on StockX.
Yeah,
and
it's
you can
like,
look at
the
eBay
whole
charts.
market. Yeah.
Yeah, but back then it was all up here, but that was a eureka moment for me. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, for a piece of wood. Yeah, but again, going back to, it's worth whatever you're willing to pay for that, so
I think that's really the name of the game, right? People are selling potato chips that look like Virgin Mary, bro.
Exactly. Yeah. Cheeto looks like a palm tree. You win $10,000. I saw something like that. It's kind of crazy,
bro. The old legend of the guy on eBay who kept trading up, right? Started with a safety pin, traded for a blank white shirt, traded that for a fucking bike, went all the way up until he ended up being a millionaire by just trading up on eBay. So he'd buy something, use it to buy something else. And it was almost like a social experiment. And the dude ended up striking it rich, bro, because all you got to do is upgrade once. I know The Office referred to it one time. Remember they did like their little flea market down in the room, in the stock room
on the show The Office.
Yeah. On the show The Office, yes. Not in my office.
Yeah.
And Dwight ended up trading up. It really showed how it works.
I do remember that one. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
that's real.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
People do that, and so it is. Anything's worth anything,
Yeah, like a lot of guys that I know that own studios or collect guitars. You buy one guitar, then you trade it for the next one. You trade it for the next one. Before you know it, you got a $60,000 guitar in your hands or whatever it may be. It's
right.
It's that trade up.
Yeah, because guess what?
Barter trade.
There's stuff that I wasn't like. I'm not that into rap tees. I love rap music. I'm just not the guy who has to like show the bands I'm into on my shirt. I get it. I get why people do it. It's just not my thing. But so I've always made a pretty good killing off of obtaining rap tees and then reselling them, and and then I use them to buy the stuff I like. But again, you're going up, up, up. And it's fun, At the end of the day, it's fun.
It's fun, but again, a lot of people wear this shirt like to be ironic. Or I've seen interviews where some models wearing a Metallica shirt, and they're like, "Oh, name a Metallica song,"
Classic.
And she's like, "Well," or anybody like name a Stones, and it's fashion. So, but there's really no reason to get on people about that kind of stuff. I mean, unless, what do you think about that? Are you just calling them posers, or is it just kind of like be a part of it?
I'm an asshole, bro. I use the word poser a lot.
I'm a snob with music, and so I could say the same thing, but an asshole, yeah, same thing.
In private, I'm pretty critical person. I wouldn't say I would project that energy out to the general public. But in 7th grade, I remember seeing a Primus shirt and thinking, wow, that looks cool, but I don't know their music, And I remember Jane's Addiction, the 2 naked ladies with the flaming heads. I'm thinking that's fucking dope, but I don't, and I ended up being 2 of my favorite bands of all time, actually. But at the time, I just didn't know their music, So
kind of a gateway into the music.
Yeah. I mean, I knew. Yeah, I mean, that was a cool vibe. Going to a record store and seeing something up hanging and being like, "What's that?" Like, "What's that?" Man, I knew Metallica. I knew, and I bought And Justice for All like the day it came out on fucking tape in one of those long cardboard things so you can't steal it. But I would almost feel frankly, like even I just listened to Metallica. I don't know. We listened to Metallica for 2 hours today, probably. And I still think I'd be slightly poserish to wear the shirt, you know, because if you came up and started asking me like the crazy questions, like I don't know the name of the guitarist who died after the first album,
Cliff Burton.
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
See, I know that, but I'm the kind of person where I want to know if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do that, you know.
Well, at least you're admitting to it instead of just like it's cool to have the balls, if you will, to admit when you don't know something or whatever. But again, driving, listening to the music for 2 hours, you're a full blown metalhead at that point.
So I'm cool.
Yeah,
cool
you're cool.
wearing
Yeah,
the
you're
shirt.
yeah, you're good. Yeah,
Oh, thanks, dude.
Cliff, yeah. I'll
Cliff
give you
Burton.
permission, because I'm a big Cliff Burton fan. I have the same kind of bass, a Rickenbacker that he has, and
right,
big
it was the bass
inspiration of
player,
mine.
yeah.
He collected these rare things called Morley wah pedals, huge pedals from the 70s that he uses fuzz sound, that wah sound.
Yeah.
So I'm a big nerd in that kind of stuff. So I know him very well.
Yeah, like those intros.
I don't know him, but I know
Right,
his
the intros.
Yeah,
at the
he has
beginning
that
where they were wobbly.
sound. Yeah,
and but Jason Newsted was the replacement.
Yeah,
right?
and he got a lot.
I could wear a Metallica shirt.
You're good, yeah. But yeah, he got a lot of shit. Jason Newsted, they treated him like the new guy, and he said touring was hell because they would just torture him just because he was like the new guy, and then they got another guy.
Such fucking white male chauvinistic bullshit. Like, watch the fucking documentary, bro. You see, they're all assholes. Except for when the suicidal tendencies dude comes into audition.
They give him $1 million
when the
for signing.
suicidal tendencies dude
Trujillo. Yeah.
Oh man, he is a fucking badass.
Because he played with a bunch of bands and he came from nothing, which is awesome.
Like, do you know this? He's like, I can play any Metallica song you want.
Yeah. He's all, your fingers can move that fast? He's all, yeah.
No, they go, do you want to pick? And he goes, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And he just plays like 5 different songs. That was fire. That was the best part of the movie.
That's sick because that's real stuff. They could actually get down like that. So, but again, I'm pretty sure it was real. At least it seemed like it was real. But they said, we're going to sit you down and we're going to just give you $1 million just to start off. And that's just kind of a cool thing because that changed that dude's life. Because he's playing. I mean, he was playing some decent gigs, but getting $1 million cash when you don't have
life dreams.
That's
he said it. He said, "This is my life dream, bro."
No,
but he deserves it, dude. He's a badass.
Oh yeah, he's been in the industry for a long time, and playing the small clubs, and now he's doing these 360 arena tours that they do. All their concerts are 360.
Oh, he's still with them.
Mm-hmm, still with them, yeah.
Wow.
So they're still doing that kind of stuff, yeah.
Some dude came in the shop, and he always he comes down from Phoenix, like, what Metallica you got, bro? And I show him, and he's like, James is off the wagon. James relapsed. Did you hear? And I'm like, as if with like a mutual friend of ours. And I'm like, no, that sucks. Like, this is like with people, bro. I'm just always like, dude, get out of here.
Yeah.
Buy the fucking shirt and leave.
Yeah, that's a little.
Like, James relapsed, dude.
It's like you guys were homies or something. Yeah.
I was like,
even still, yeah.
I was like, on what? And he's like, something. And I'm like, what? Like, bro.
Yeah, they have like a
throw a drug my way so we can continue the conversation. like
they got a thing out here called the Betty Ford Clinic where all the celebrities would come.
Oh yeah, of course.
And a lot of them escape from them. I've heard stories about people saying they see. I'm not even gonna say it, but certain people at different bars, getting hammered.
Perry Farrell.
They'll just pay out and hop the fence and.
Well, a very famous Tucson incident. Diana Ross went to recover from alcoholism at Canyon Ranch, which was a similar facility, and got a hardcore DUI, like a felony DUI,
like hit somebody or did something.
Well, she was seen driving up and down, making U-turns over and over, and then she threw her the booze bottle out of the car and hit somebody, and that was in Tucson. And like, Diana Ross,
they made the news.
yeah. Well, she was running donuts outside of the facility.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, bro, Yeah. Sometimes if I don't eat meat for a week, I might fucking steal some pepperonis from the motherfucking grocery store.
Yeah. Speaking of pepperonis, you got pizza.
Push a fucking animal into a corner, bro, or you might get bit. You know what I'm saying?
Here, take a Snickers. Yeah, you're not the same. Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna wrap this up because I can smell your pizza and.
Bro,
yeah.
Go all night.
Unless you want to keep going, I mean, let's talk. Want to talk about
this soup?
Can we actually?
Let's talk about marijuana.
Yeah, let's talk about marijuana while we're here. That's a good thing. So, what's your first experience like rolling a joint? seeing weed, the dirt weed, the new weed?
For me, it's really about the smell. So I went from commercials, like seeing a commercial, like this is your brain on drugs, fried egg commercial, to like smelling it. Like, I remember my mom went out of town one time. And I like accidentally like barged back into my dad's room and he's like, Jesus Christ. And he like had like a system going, he had like a magazine and it was like, and I was like, oh, drugs.
Yeah.
Like I remember being like, that's drugs. Okay. Like, but then I remember like smelling it and becoming a little more aware by the time I was maybe like 9 or 10. My son's 10. He ain't stupid. I think he's pretty well aware of why I have him and his sister go to the car and wait for me because I'm usually going to smoke a bong before we go to the fucking Christmas light show, whatever. He's pretty familiar, but I've also, I think we've gone pretty, for his age, I think he understands, that concept of like taking Advil when you have a headache or, so so for me, I would say right around that time, probably around 10, I started recognizing the smell and, I remember smoking out of a tinfoil pipe on someone's roof. This is just real classy stuff.
Yeah.
Smoking commercial. That's what we used to call it. Mids, Reggie, whatever you want to call it, out of like a tinfoil pipe, and being, quite high. Where it's like hours pass and it's like a dream or something. I remember that first feeling, and then I'm an entrepreneur, so I didn't have a job for many years. In high school, my mom confronted me, and she's like, "Where is the money coming from?" I'm like, "I'm selling clothes to Buffalo Exchange, Mom." Like, and she's like, "You need to move." So I moved out when I was 16 because I had a Land Cruiser and polos, jumpsuits and shit. So it's all good to me. It's been good to me over the years. In every way possible. One time, this is funny. One time, my brother, I don't know what the fuck happened. I dropped this giant, like, massive bud. I don't know. Like I remember getting half ounce or ounces. And it was just one bud.
Just on
like
a stick.
brick shit.
Oh, okay.
And so I remember my brother like comes out to the living room, just holding this massive bud in his hand. I'm 5 years older. I was probably 12, so he's probably like fucking 7. He's holding this bud. And I was like, "What you do?" It's like someone holding the gun. I was like, "What you doing, bud?"
Yeah.
Like my friends and I all got off the couch, and he's like, "I found this on the floor of your room," and I was like, "Just hand it to me right now," like before Mom comes out from her. And then I remember I was like, "Do you know what that is?" And he's like, "Marijuana." And I was like, "Yes, but it's for grown-ups usually. I'm just kind of big and I'm kind of like a grown-up for my age, and like some kind of like story." And he was like, and I remember him pausing, and I thought he was gonna guilt trip me and be like, "You shouldn't do drugs." And he goes, "I'm not gonna tell Mom, dude." And I was like, "Okay, we have an understanding.
Yeah, it's got your back. Yeah,
we have an understanding."
Yeah. Do you remember what the quality was? Like, you're just getting high to get high. Do you remember? I mean, living next to Mexico, we do. I'm sure there's a lot of that. Brick, like you say.
Yeah. What we would know now is what we would have called hydro when I was in high school. Or top shelf, or and so that was more rare. And so I remember getting a job and being a little bit more of a connoisseur by the time, like maybe 97, 98. And I remember going to someone's house and they're like, 80 a quarter, 100 a quarter, 200 a quarter. And I'm like looking at the jar thinking, 200 a quarter? Like, what the fuck? But like that was when California was starting to have its impression on us in Arizona, So like I said, I made I had a good thing going until it just became so mainstream. But, supply and demand, seller's market, whatever you want to call it, there wasn't a lot of dro in Arizona, when in the late 90s, early 2000s. So having friends in LA was always a good thing, But we didn't have, I never saw it till the late 90s. I never saw anything like that. Like,
did you know the difference from like an indica to a sativa back then, or was just weed was weed?
To this day, I just don't give a fuck, man. People are always like, just like, people send me packages. I did, like someone sent me this kit, like, just so you know what you're working with here. And I was like, I don't like, just roll it out.
Just
hand it to me. Like I don't really, like do I need to know what flavor the cocaine is? Not really.
What about edibles and topicals and that kind of stuff? Like, do you ever mess around with that kind of stuff?
I am very sensitive, and I would guess consider myself a lightweight. What happened with the edible? Oh, it was a chocolate. So we went to the Rose Bowl flea market, and of course we go at like 5, 6 in the morning so we can beat all the Japanese and stuff to all the vintage. And a homie of mine gave me a chocolate, and he's like, "I got you, man. I got you. I'll take care of it." And I remember thinking, "Oh, chocolate! Like chocolate at 6 in the morning sounds great." And I didn't really think about it, but it was a fucking chocolate. Like,
Empty stomach.
Empty stomach. I slept 3 hours, 5 in the morning at Rose Bowl. So at first I felt kind of fuzzy and I was cool. And then I remember going into full blown quiet mode where I like couldn't talk to anyone. And that's not me at all. So people who know me, like, and if I'm the quiet one, something's wrong.
Something's up.
Yeah, I'm either gonna stab somebody or I ate a fucking edible chocolate.
Or you ate a chocolate.
So yeah, I remember like somebody like trying to invite me out for a pop up in Houston. He's like, "So, like, what would that run? And what's a good week for you?" And I was like,
wrong time to talk
when's
business.
it good for you? You know what I mean? I remember like it was like the most, and I remember my girlfriend calling me, and she's lost, and she's French, and the reception was bad, and obviously I was in that state, and I remember it was like a bad dream where I was like, "What? Where are you? Walk towards me." And then like she's like 20 feet away. You know what I mean? Like, but I was like in my head, I was like, she's lost. We're never going to make it out of here. You know what I mean? So, and then we had to drive down to get to our Airbnb in San Diego and meet some friends. And I'll never forget, I turned my head to the side, and I remember just staying in the right lane and just riding it and just being like, just fucking cruise control.
Damn, yeah.
I was like that high, man. And I don't prefer that. So I'm an old school dude. I prefer flower. I'm open to everything in general, but for my particular taste, I prefer just straightforward flower joints. I like to taste it. I like to be one with sort of the activation of something being lit with fire, and so edibles and pens and stuff like that. It's not really my thing. I'm more of a classic man.
Have you ever tried like the creams and ointments if you're sore or anything in the back or anything like that?
I'm sponsored by a bunch of CBD companies, and they send me, the water. It really helps. My dad is older, so I usually pass that stuff on to my dad. I don't get body pain.
Yeah. And then again, smoking weed, that does like relieve a lot of that. Even if you have it, I mean, walking around Coachella, your feet start hurting, you're a lot of joint, you're gonna feel pretty good. I think the problem with me at Coachella was that I did that too much. And I didn't worry, and I didn't, me, it's either or for me. So alcohol and cannabis together can make me very quiet again and kind of zone out. The crossfade, they call it.
And I crossfaded way too hard, and that was part of it, and it kicked my ass. And so I would have preferred to stick to one when I was at Coachella. And probably alcohol. For me, alcohol it can be a very active and upper, and I prefer that. And then pot's more like, when I need to like get some stuff done on my phone at nighttime at home, and it can be social for me, but alcohol is a lot more of an active social thing for me.
What's your drink if you're at a bar? What are they asking? What are you asking for?
I like vodka. That's
vodka
my
straight.
That's my fuel. Just hook it up to my vein.
Yeah, just IV. Yes.
Yeah. No, dude. Vodka, anything. If there's anything I've learned over the years, vodka mixed with anything.
Yeah. Yeah, you can mix it with almost anything. Yeah. Orange juice,
mask
Red
your
Bull,
breath at work.
Yeah. If you cut yourself, you could put something on there. Yeah. Multi-purpose.
Oh, shit, bro. I did drywall when I was 10, 12 years old, bro. I used to cut myself, and my dad would just put fucking masking tape on.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No.
There's times where I should have got stitches, and my dad wrapped my arm in masking tape.
But that kind of upbringing makes you a little bit tougher, I think, and makes. I mean, at least I think. I hope it did. And didn't.
I'll still rock it. I'll still rock that. I mean, there's a lot of times when I should be getting Band-Aids and stitches, and it's all good.
Yeah.
I have thick skin, man.
Yeah,
I could cut my arm and not even
literally,
notice.
yeah.
I'd be bleeding and shit and not even notice.
I had one question that I actually I didn't want to talk make bullet points. I just wanted to talk to you, but there was one thing I was curious with the bootlegging stuff. Is it true there's like a 7-year grace period, or there's some sort of period where you can make bootleg but you can't sell it? Because I watched your your show on Netflix, and they were talking about like the Louis Police, the whole thing or whatever. Is that is that true?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's any type of a grace period as much as the concept of obtaining a vintage piece as opposed to buying a counterfeit piece or making. Okay, so if I buy a big bundle of clothes and there happens to be like an old Versace tee that someone bootlegged in the 90s, I have no legal ramifications whatsoever coming towards me. I didn't make that. I don't have it in 10 different sizes. I'm not trying to push it. You know what I mean? It's almost like fan art. Right. And God forbid you obtain an old piece of Star Wars fan art or an old homemade guitar from the 70s, right? Like, and someone made their own Fender, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck is that your problem, bro? You found this cool thing and you're just selling it to someone else who thinks
as long as you're not like mass producing it and claiming it's your whole thing.
Absolutely.
Because taxes and
so many things. So again, I think time, what is it? Again, you brown Louis Vuitton purse, right? With the tan monogram, everybody knows what that looks like. If you have 100 of those and they're fake, whatever, you are in copyright infringement and you are breaking the law, whatever.
So the Louis Police, that's a real thing.
The Rose Bowl flea market, Louis Vuitton is known to send undercover people to look around. In fact, I've come aware of recently lots of undercover designer operations. So I know a lot of people who use real materials. They go to Louis Vuitton or Goyard and they use the materials to repurpose and make new things, and they're getting sort of sweated by undercovers who are like, hey, can you make me this? Where are you getting all your stuff? Is it from the store? And then these people were found out to be employees of Louis Vuitton and Goyard. So it's funny. I just got a cease and desist yesterday. I forgot to tell you, babe. I just got a cease and desist yesterday before I left town from Starter because I have a Slobby tee and it's a pentagram instead of the Starter star, and instead of saying Starter, it says Slobby.
Yeah.
And they said, and then they were like Exhibit A, and it was just a screenshot from our website, and I was like, oh, Exhibit A, like. And they it was hilarious. So we just deleted them off the site. Like, fuck off.
I feel like you should have like diplomatic immunity, being your personality. Like you know what I mean? Like they should be stoked that you're.
At one point, they approached me about doing a project. That's what's hilarious is that when you realize with these big companies, nobody talks to each other. So like you could I've had companies offer me, let's just say free services, like this upholstery company that my girlfriend hooked me up with. They're going to build a bunch of furniture for me for my house, like custom stuff, like MCM couch.
Nice.
And I had she had spoke to the boss. And then all of a sudden, when I reached out to like send my designs and all the things, they're like, oh, no, we're going to pass it this time. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry. I was under the impression, and then he's like, oh, just spoke to my boss. Sorry. You know what I mean? And so I think there's things like that happen because I know the people at Champion, Starter. I know all these brands. And so obviously it's just some fucking computer that like programs can catch, the way you can do a Google image matching, and programs can just catch anyone trying to use something similar. So they just sent me like some automated lawyer letter, and we thought it was hilarious. First time though. So to go this long and be doing, I don't make the shit.
That's a good run,
Starter,
man.
I can take responsibility for. I make those, so it has my name on it. Sure, whatever, fuck it. We'll burn them.
Yeah,
I got one for you in the car.
Nice. Yeah, I wear a medium.
I know.
Yeah. So
that's my job.
Nike SB. I see your ring there. Is that SB or is that just Nike?
These are just some old Nike rings, but you're right. It's really similar to where the SB would have gone. I remember when SBs were the shit in the early. Now SBs are popping now again.
Yeah, quality shoes. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
SBs are like back, like Migos and all these dudes are collecting SBs.
And your homie Steezus, is that his name? The dude, he does a bunch of podcasts and he's like the 9 Club. Yeah, he's really into almost kind of like the same as you. Like you guys are big sneakerheads, and he likes that kind of stuff a lot too. I know.
Yeah, Steezus Christ. He's a cool sort of example of somebody who has actually crossed over between like streetwear and skating and actually, So he's like, again, talk about being a poser. Like that dude actually skates. Like I don't think that Offset and Quavo are skating. So again, I don't know. Do you have to be a skater to wear Nike SB? Probably not. But me personally, that's how I roll. I wouldn't wear a Burton snowboard sweatshirt. I just wouldn't. I don't snowboard. If someone came up and started spitting snowboard shit at me, I'd feel like a dumb fuck.
Yeah, I grew up skateboarding like from a very young age, and I grew up, wearing Vans and Chucks and those kinds of things. And I remember when Nike came up with buying the whole skate team, and they were putting a lot of money behind their team, and some people were for it. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this is some big business coming in here," type of thing. But right now, it seems like it's accepted. It's like guys are wearing Red Bull hats, guys are wearing Nike, but why not? The Olympics is coming up, 2020. Yeah. They're doing it. It's like, someone's got to back these skateboarders.
I think it should be flattering when something goes what I like to call full on Joe Public. So like at one time, rap music, was underground or subversive or what have you. Again, this is what vintage has become now. Vintage is very mainstream now. So it's not taboo to wear used clothes from 20 years ago. It's not, it's actually almost cooler, because people understand, I'm not buying something that's going to go in a landfill like fast fashion from Forever 21. I'm supporting like classics, and, you buying an old Stussy shirt, you're actually supporting Sean Stussy. Like, not directly monetarily, but there's something there,
Yeah.
And so I had no problem with that. I don't think people realized that DC was owned by Nike that DC shoes was owned by Nike. It's still now, but was even back then. So back then, those same people that were like Nike SB were probably wearing DCs that Nike had already owned the factory for 2 or 3 years.
They're just not educated on the subject.
Yeah, remember when DCs got real dope and they had like all kinds of bells and whistles on them and the boxes started looking cooler? It's because Nike bought them. Nike also owns Converse. So there's people who are like, I don't wear Nike, that's sweatshop, and they're wearing Chucks because they think they're like enlightened hipster dude and they wear Chucks. And I'm like, bro, Nike owns Converse, you fucktard.
Yeah, well, now they know. Hopefully these posers are watching this and they figure it out.
All these posers. Yeah. The most time, I'm going to say this, the number one time my feelings were ever hurt the most in my entire life was I was attempting to be a skateboarder. And I could say I probably could ollie up a curb, probably landed, let's just say, a handful of kick flips. And I remember I went out one day alone, and again, when you're the fat kid and everyone else is like hauling ass and you're like, my back hurts. You go out on your own. I went out on my own one day to like try to get better, let's say. Yeah. And I'm skating and I wasn't really doing the job, let's say. And these 2 college dudes roll up and they're like, hey, bro, do you know where the closest McDonald's is? And like me, a 12-year-old me was dumb enough. I had to come up to the car and I'm like, yeah, there's one like over here. And this dude fucking throws a bell pepper full of gravel. Damn. At my head, it breaks, and then they go, poser, and they drive away. Damn. And I would say that from that moment on, I don't think I ever bullied another person in my life unless they deserved it, which is still quite often.
I guess one thing to educate someone, another thing to throw a bell pepper at their face. Right?
I mean, I admire the detail that went into like, let's stuff the bell pepper with something extra malicious. But at the same time, I think being a poser was the ultimate insult back then in the early 90s, to like be called a poser. I mean, like that's like the N word.
It's like no coming back.
That's like you like I didn't call anyone a poser. Like, I couldn't skate. So now we can throw that term around. But back then it was only usually referred to for skating,
Yeah, that was the one thing. If you there's a term in skateboarding where you push with your front foot, they call it mongo. That's called you being a poser. Or if you grab the trucks by the truck, like there's photos of people doing photo shoots, and you could tell if somebody knows how to grab a skateboard because there's certain ways to grab a board. If you grab the board by the metal trucks, they call that a mall grab because it's like kids at the mall holding their board.
I remember that.
So things like there's all this like little lingo and stuff.
Yeah, but you hold your board from the wood part in the middle, right? Like
there's different ways. Like even the ways you pop on your board. It's just I've grown up skateboarding. It's been a big part of my life, and then got into music, but. I was doing that, traveling with friends, like filming, going 100 miles just to film at one little spot that no one's, just because we saw it in a video.
I mean, skateboarding's come a long way. That's a good example of a lot like a lot like this business or rap music again. The things that were like taboo or underground or not necessarily just generally accepted. Like I don't think my mom wanted me to be a skater just as much as she didn't want me to smoke pot. But I think that we've in 2020. If you're not hurting anybody, I always tell parents, like, oh, he's obsessed with all these sneakers. He's worried about clothes. And I'm like, that's a good hobby to have. Because when I was a kid, people were smoking crack.
Most definitely, yeah.
And beating each other up and, the terrible things that I've seen. So I always tell parents when they come into the store, like, I think he wants to sell. He wants to buy things from the thrift store and sell it on eBay. I'm like, hell yeah.
You think they're like putting a knock at you, like blaming you for that inspiration?
No, I think that they're putting out the feelers, and I think it's new to them to think that buying and selling and collecting clothes is a healthy hobby, but it truly is.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going to thrift stores my whole life, not out of because I can't afford to buy something. I'd rather. You can find some really cool stuff that you dig through it and you find really special things, So I'm a big fan of digging into that kind of stuff. And we luckily in the desert, we have like at least 10 decent thrift stores around here. So, but I'm a big fan of finding stuff and even call me a poser if you will. But since I watch your show, you kind of got me hip to polo. So I've been buying like vintage polo stuff. I've been seeing like cool little sweaters and I know if it doesn't have the tag, then it's not new or whatever, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, new, polo's hard.
Well, there's some really, really cool shirts that I bought.
A lot of the
sweaters,
same designs for so long that it can be one of the harder ones to tell the difference between the like new or quote unquote retro but everything's got energy, So this is why I was a teacher for many years. This is why you don't take kids' toys away from them. That's their energy that they brought from home to try to make themselves feel more comfortable at school. And I always like to pass on the energy. And there's times when we have stuff in the store that I prefer somebody to have. Let's say you came in, so I have some old Dogtown boards right now that are probably pretty valuable. We have them up high, and when people like ask, like if you came in and we just had this conversation, I would sell it to you for probably half of what I had it up there for, because I like people to get the things that they deserve, and I don't mean deserve in the classic sense of the word, but energy wise, something that you were almost meant to have.
I know exactly what you mean.
So I actually prefer that, and I train my staff that way too.
Yeah, and that's a good way.
Someone's an asshole, we charge them extra.
Yeah.
If you're cool and you feel like and you feel like, and I feel like you would deserve this piece, we're gonna give it to you for half price.
It's like going to a good home, if you will. Yeah,
Oh, that's exactly what it's all about. Yeah. Let the person talk and let them see what's I'll be real. I've told some dude, give me back some asshole. I don't know, like a year ago, some asshole was all drunk, came in by these jerseys. He's like, "Come on." Like, I think he called me chief and all that shit. And he's like, "Come on, you can afford to give me a couple of deals on this." And I was like, you know what? Just don't buy him at all. And he's like, "Oh," and I was like, "No, you could go."
Yeah, you don't even want it going to him. Yeah.
And we asked him to leave because, like, I really don't need, I'm definitely not going to be an asshole to anybody. Like, I've never once just put my shit out onto a customer who came into the store. So, like, I don't really need your shit, like when we're like trying to be like, "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't really need that. So you don't need you don't need to buy anything from us either,
Yeah.
Like, I give a fuck about the $100.
No, totally. Yeah, it's nice to know that you put your energy into that, and it's going to somebody that's going to take that energy and use it as well as opposed to somebody that's like, a shitty person.
Yeah,
or whatever.
And who are we to make that call? But
in the moment,
at the very least, I get to decide what happens with my stuff.
Yeah.
I can't dictate the whole world as much as I think I could. I think I can, but as our egos think we can. But at the end of the day, it's kind of fun to own your own like space and be able to tell people to fuck off.
Well, again, you got
or bring people in the middle of the night after you're closed, which we do too.
You got the platform for it. You're on Netflix and you're doing that. So again, even without even trying to, you can't help but inspire those types of people, and whether it's for the good or for the bad, but mostly for the good.
Yeah.
And then I watched a little interview recently with you, and they were saying that you got a new season, or you're going to do another season of your show.
So I was signed with Complex originally, and they shot it. and then they sold it as a package season to Netflix, which is kind of how TV works a lot of times. And I released myself from Complex, and that took a little while. And so now I have a new network, and we're kind of starting over from scratch. But I don't think it's a bad thing. Creative control is pretty important to me, and I wasn't so stoked on a lot of the things with season 1. I think everyone else likes it, but I wasn't. It wasn't my vision.
Only you would know that, yeah, because
it wasn't really the show that we shot. All this like transactional stuff with numbers at the bottom of the screen is not
like Pawn Stars and that kind of look.
Like that. They did that themselves after the fact.
So that was after the post-production.
So you would call it transactional. So this is all non-scripted TV that we're talking about here, right? AKA reality TV. You have lifestyle, transactional, and documentary, right? Lifestyle is Jackass, right? Transactionals, Pawn Stars, and documentaries like Shit You See on Vice, where they follow like a Muslim woman around, and she's like news, almost more news
journalism type. Yeah,
thank you, true journalism. So we shot something very lifestyle-esque, and then they chopped it and turned it into something transactional after the fact. And that's why there's so much green screen of me talking, because they just totally changed the whole show around. And they're like, do you want more money to come back and talk more? And I was like, sure. If you know what I mean? Like if that's, if that's what's going to, save this and keep it from like being scrapped, apparently, then that's fine. So I went back and shot a bunch of stuff where I was dropping knowledge. And when they did test screenings, people seemed to like to hear me be a know-it-all, and that was, I think, the part that stuck the most, was that I do know what I'm talking about. So there's, the Trumps of the world who don't know what they're talking about but do like to talk a lot, and then hopefully people like me or Joe Rogan or people who actually know what they're talking about who are also good at talking a lot. So it saved itself through that, but that was not what I would prefer. I think there'll be some of that in future seasons, but a lot more what you would call real life and lifestyle. So still we're gonna still go and buy and sell and trade, but I don't need fake. Like all those numbers are fake. So people are like, oh, you bought. People are fucking idiots. So people are like, you bought it for this and you sold it for that. You're such a dick. And I'm like, bro, first of all, dude, that shit ain't real, motherfucker. What fucking planet are you born on? Like, no matter, I don't care what. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine that does red carpet stuff, and she's like, yeah, even our interviews with celebrities, we chop it up, we move their words around. When you see it flash away to the crowd and come back and you only hear their voice, we chopped up what they said. So even the realest interview, something like this, can be construed or misconstrued and changed. And there was a lot of that, there was a lot of times where I'm like, I don't think I really said it like that, and so I would like to get away from that and have it be a little bit more like quote unquote real. But to go back to the main point, yeah, everything's good, and I'm going to be hooking up with a new network like really, really, really soon. And I'm not going to serve people a different flavor of ice cream and tell them it's the same thing. So it will be a lot like season 1, but better. That would be a good way to put it.
Yeah. When I talked to you on the phone, we were talking about, because I saw Murs was on your show, and Murs came to the Valley. I'm a sound engineer front of house, so I mixed concerts and things like that. And Murs came in without a sound guy, and I ran his show, did his whole sound check. He was there with his son and his crew. Super, super cool, chill, like his, his like energy level. I mean, it's there on stage, but just super chill, you know. And then you were even saying in the show that they like hyped it up more than his actual energy is. Like he's not as remember you said something like that, like he's not as excited as he was about it, or something like that.
Somebody who I would consider like a very like low frequency person compared to like, I don't know, music. When you know someone through music, he's just very down to earth, very like even keeled, and very like sort of I would just say very friendly and normal. I don't know, compared to a lot of people, musicians, celebrities, what have you. But I think that in any kind of group, sort of synergy situation, there's always going to be a couple people who think they want something, certain thing, and this is what's best. So I guess on that note, what I'm changing is that I actually do know what's best, and I'm not gonna need someone else to try to be like, like, can we be a little more urban, Merce? Like I just don't need like I don't need like I don't need anybody to tailor
talking heads.
So I don't exactly. I don't need anyone tailoring what's going on, because what's actually going on in real life is pretty dope on its own.
And that's one of those things like where I think a lot of people are getting away from other forms of maybe like, I wouldn't say radio, but like news and stuff. They're going to these podcasts because you're able to talk like we're talking and actually get the full damn story, as opposed to 20-second clips, or like you're saying they're editing, misconstruing your words. It's nice for people to get to know you.
The beauty of actually what we're doing right now is the
kind of set the record straight.
Yeah, or just real dialogue and real energy exchange. That's not, again, you could have sent me 20 questions and I could have typed them out and had super clever and funny answers. And I've done that a million times for magazines or whatever. But, true intellectual exchange is superior in my opinion. And I'd like to capture that a little bit more on camera.
Are you doing other podcasts, or like what could you name something that you've done, or like any friends that have podcasts? I know like Steezus has his thing, and like
sure, yeah. So I was on. I did their show. I did Retro and Rare is a really cool podcast that I've done a couple months ago, and he's up in New York, real kind of loud and like real opinionated, and fuck the Nintendo Switch. It's all about 64. He's very, very video game oriented, but he deals with hip hop music, and it was a really, just to like never have met anyone, this person in your life, and to be able to really have that serious of a conversation. I mean, I was impressed, a lot like our conversation now. I was impressed with what he had to offer, because it wasn't all about me necessarily. It was an actual true dialogue and conversation. So that was one that I've done recently that I thought was exceptional.
Nice. And then you're going to LA. Are you going to do interviews out there? Is that just kind of come with the territory?
No, don't worry. Just you on this trip.
No, I mean,
I'm here for SneakerCon LA, and I'm going to go see Gucci Ghost at his studio and do some stuff with him. I'm pretty stoked on that. What else are we doing? Rose Bowl Flea Market on Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah, so we got a jam-packed weekend, but I work with SneakerCon. I do the sneaker conversations, so it's not too far off from what we're doing, but it's a lot more of a Q&A, and it's in front of a group, a lot of kids and families usually watching. Again, the parents who want to understand the sneaker culture better. Where's this connection with vintage and streetwear and sneakers? Like, where, so I enjoy that stuff a lot. Like, that's just no problem for me. So SneakerCon, generously, brings us to any show of theirs that we want to go to.
What do you think about like repro or like retro, like taking the shoe or taking the guitar and making it, machining it the way it was? Is it the same? Is it different? I mean,
that's a hard one,
because I know like back in the day they'd make stuff better. I don't know if it works the same way with shoes. The stitching was better, or the machines were better.
No, with sneakers you want to get the retro because the old ones are fall apart, and the science and the technology was actually inferior in this case with sneakers. I like the way they look. I think the materials feel heavier, and so there's certain aspects. You look at a Jordan 1 from 1985. I mean, it's like a leather couch. Like, that thing is leather.
Yeah.
Now it's of course synthetic and fucking, it's gonna fold different. It's not gonna give. This is like, leather's like living. Even though it's a skin, it's still living, and it has like a life to it.
Adjust to temperature.
Exactly. And that's the way the shoes used to be. And so now with the synthetic stuff, the way it folds, the creases look more mechanical and weird. But that being said, they're more comfortable. They fit better. They're going to last longer. They're going to stay whiter longer and not yellow on you. So technology's come a long way with sneakers. So I'm guilty as charged when it comes to sneakers. I definitely would buy retro, and I have a lot of vintage sneakers, but I've also had a lot of them crumble on me. And in my store, we do not sell retro anything. So as far as business goes, we don't do that. Everything is 80s and 90s vintage, original, head to toe. I don't do retro.
Have you ever considered, or you might have like designed your own shoe, or like collab with somebody, or done anything like that?
Yeah.
Because it seems like you would know exactly what you want: materials, lines, colors.
Yeah, I've done. So again, in this world and that we're kind of in, streetwear, vintage, you do projects and they don't always go through, per se. But I can say that I've designed boots for lugs that weren't made, that were really sick, but they were infringing upon Gucci's copyright. But they were dope, and they looked like Gucci boots, but they looked like Generation Cool. It was sick. Like this whole kind of thing here where it's like GC Generation Cool, but
that's cool.
It looks a little too close to Gucci to be putting it on like a mass shoe. So I'd like to revisit that with them. In fact, they've invited me back to revisit, and I actually think that they'll probably let me do it, that same exact shoe now.
Yeah, because
they know me.
Yeah.
Because now it's cool. But 5 years ago, it was, it looks too much like Gucci. But now they're like, cool, Gucci, cool, man. So lugs, boots, I've done. I passed on Puma, I can say that. Nike, I'm a Nike and Adidas guy. I don't dislike Puma, but that was the only recent sneaker offer I've got as far as collabing. There's this guy Mach. A lot of people call him Mache, Mache. He does like Odell Beckham's cleats. He does all the crazy custom cleats in the NFL. He's making me Mr. T shoes right now.
Wow.
It's kind of a secret project. And the laces are actual 14 karat gold rope chains.
Damn.
4 laces. So I've got some sneaker stuff in the works. As far as having my own, I would say one of the dreams, a dream that I've had that I've never really quite fulfilled was having my own. Like, I want the fucking machine, bro. Like, I want that, like I want
a real precision machine.
Like one shoes. Like, I would love to have a company where every shoe's different, it's super unique, and we're just making them right there in house. Maybe the person comes in and consults and gets to decide. I love corduroy. I love, this sort of, this worldwide fashion trend of going to custom and individualism, I think, is great. So I could foresee that. I've looked into it. The machines aren't cheap.
Yeah, especially to have ones that are precise. Yeah.
Special insurance if you want to have those machines.
And that's the kind of one thing with the bootleg stuff, like their machines aren't as precise. That's the thing, right? Where they're like the stitching could get off, or is that just?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I'd say the number one thing to look at, my girlfriend and I get when we're at SneakerCon, a lot of people want us to look at purses. Gucci purse, is it real? And I'll show them the stitching first thing. These companies don't put anything out unless it's perfect. These high, and Nike doesn't, they don't even send it for seconds to the outlet if it has what you would call wonky, stitching, which is just another word for not perfectly straight.
So what do they do with those materials? They just toss them, cut them up, burn them?
All of the above.
All of the above,
and
yeah.
I think that's just where high-end replicas come from, because people are retrieving the discarded.
Dumpster diving.
Yep.
Yeah.
So China, people are dumpster diving in China and then making the shoe themselves, and it's becoming damn close. I read an article today about some new law that Nike has actually like helped push forward, where even if I guess they were shipping Nikes without the swoosh on them, and then they would ship the swooshes separate, and they were like beating customs that way. And then Nike was like, fuck that. And I think the law passed through today. I was just reading on the plane on the way here, and they were like, nah. So they confiscated a shipment of swooshes, and they confiscated a bunch of blanks, and they put 2 and 2 together. And so they just passed that law. So it's this fucking cops and robbers, man. A story as old as time, dude.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember.
Fuck, man. The cops are always after us, and we're always trying to find ways to beat them, The government, everyone regulating you. It's just this cat and mouse game, bro. Just like me with fucking Starter.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fucking send them a check, bro. I'm just gonna delete them off my website until they go away.
Yeah, eventually they will, I'm sure. Just like you've been summoned to go to jury duty.
Dog. They would report all sales. Yeah, so I'm gonna handwrite a note saying $70. Here's a notary. Like whatever, dude. It's funny to me. It's all funny to me, bro.
Yeah,
I don't pay parking tickets. I don't believe in any of that shit. They could suck my dick.
Do you have like an attorney that's like on call? Like, I'm sure you might have to have somebody watching your. Okay, you have power of attorney over yourself. Yes,
I have a lawyer. We're in the process of expanding our store franchise into probably 5 or 6 stores, and I had to, for the first time in my life, get a real serious business lawyer. I have lawyers secretly, friends of mine that are public defenders that give me really good advice. And so I'll just call them off the record, but
that's nice to have at your disposal. Yeah.
I have a real business lawyer now.
No bueno or what? Or just,
no, it's just weird.
It's just weird having somebody else handling your business.
Nobody for some shit I already know how to do.
Yeah, you could trade him something. Trade him some kicks.
My homie who was just telling me he traded his, Marco's new book. My boy put out, Marco the Curator, really amazing stylist in LA. He did P Diddy. He did Migos. He did a lot of famous outfits you've seen in videos came from him. Anyway, he put a book out, and his publicist, sent him the bill, and it was large. And so he said he ended up trading him a set of Gucci luggage, and his publicist was like, "All right,
done deal." Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of don't push it on somebody, but if it feels right, bartering and trading is a beautiful thing. That's better than money to me.
Everybody kind of wins in the exchange. Yeah, right.
I think so.
Yeah, most definitely.
Symbiosis is what I call it.
Yeah. Nice. So I can't help but notice you got the gold grill. When did you start wearing that?
So somebody made this as MCM. So it has the MCM pattern lasered into it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So somebody just made it. No joke. This is probably $1,200 worth of gold. Somebody made this and just sent it to me.
So you don't have to get your teeth like
I sent them a mold.
Oh, got you.
They offered first, so yeah, I tend to oversimplify things.
Yeah.
I have so many grills now that I just have a mold. So I send my mold off, they send it back.
Nice.
I 5 sets of teeth, but I have 2 or 3 coming. The more people that offer, I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
I tried to get creative with this dude and do like a Thanos infinity glove thing where it was gonna be all gold with a different colored gem in each one.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm having trouble picturing what you mean, and I sent him a fucking picture of the infinity fucking gauntlet, and I was like, bro,
make it happen. Yeah.
What do you mean you're having trouble picturing what I mean? I didn't even need the picture, bro.
Yeah.
We all know what it looks like.
Nice. So what's next for Slobby besides doing LA? What are you gonna do when you get home? Do you usually just chill, or is it like 24/7 running around
in Tucson,
or just like after you come back from your trip, like what's gonna be your do you relax?
I got kids, bro.
Get back to life. Get back to regular.
Bro. I usually go through a reclusive phase of medicating and eating and not really doing much for a day, depending. And it feels good. And then I'll just be back, nice. Let's say I'll do a Sunday, no social media, eat like a pig, stay home and get really, medicated and watch a movie. And then I'll go back to work Monday and hit the coffee and fucking actually answer people's texts for what, and emails.
You kind of need to go dark for a bit though, just to kind of get you. I do the same thing. I'm constantly doing stuff, booking stuff, running sound, doing band stuff, and it's like sometimes you really got to just turn your phone off for a bit, unplug the phone from the wall and just kind of focus on your stuff. I mean, and having kids, that's a whole other thing that you gotta be dad too. So
yeah, dude, I just Tucson's a little bit of a slow town, so I feel kind of lucky that I'm not somewhere super metropolitan, so. And taking vacations that don't involve work, like when we went to New Mexico, that was very relaxing. Advice to everybody out there: just cut it off and have quiet days. At least once every couple weeks. Yeah, I think it's probably good for all of us.
Reset the clock. Yeah.
Reset the clock.
And then speaking of medicating, Libra, I'm sure they're going to give you some sort of package to take home. So I think I don't know. It, but they're gonna hook you guys up because
beautiful.
Yeah, but again, let people know about your experience. Again, one more time, tell them where to go. Libra, right? Libra's the spot. And again, you go to Coachella if you go next year or whatever. The freeway is right there, so you just cruise right off the freeway, stop by. I mean, it's perfect. You don't have to cruise
dude,
inland.
This place is gorgeous, super convenient, right off Country Club. If I had known when I was here for Coachella, I would have came here.
Well, they just opened up this last year, so
okay.
but yeah, they're
So I
going to
don't
be
feel bad.
and they're killing it. They're doing a lot here. And again, I walked into this building and I was like, I fell in love. I don't go anywhere
I think
else.
the menus are super cool. This is like very convenient. In fact, I've been doing a lot of dispensary stuff, and I did a few things in Phoenix, and I wasn't, again, maybe I'm a snob for decor, but I think it's important to have a comfortable environment, and this is probably the nicest dispensary I've ever been in visually.
Yeah, I walked in here and I fell in love again. I told Bradley, the owner, I said, even before I even knew about this place, or my friend Ricky that does the art here, I had no idea. I just walked in. I'm like, I didn't have much experience with shops, but the ones that I did see, I'd walk in, there's like an armed guard and then a picture of Bob Marley, and that's about it. This is like, it's sick,
Yeah,
So,
I'm a Virgo, but in this particular case, I'm down with the Libra.
Well, I guess Libra, they said it means like pound. It means there's a few different connotations of the word Libra. So I don't know if it's based upon the astronomical or the astrology deal, but I think it's like a Spanish thing.
It doesn't matter, because this is what I tell anybody starting a brand, anything. Some words are just nice words. Generation, cool. Those are two positive words. Family, regeneration, cool, hip, whatever. You could say cool. Being cool is a pleasant temperature. Some of when these people have these names, I'm like, dude, what? Why would you call your company that? Like, the brain is going to react whether you know it or not. The brain is shooting out certain chemicals when it hears certain words. Just typing out the word Libra makes me happy.
Yeah, no.
Those are nice letters. Like, if I was a graffiti writer, when I wrote graffiti, S's and R's, L's and M's, B's. These are nice, really nice, like, visually pleasing letters and words. All that stuff is very important. People underestimate the power of one word, even when it comes to branding, but it works for me, bro.
So are you going to go to Coachella this next year coming up?
Doubtful,
yeah.
If I was the Magic 8 Ball, it would say outlook not so good.
What's stopping you? Just curious.
It was more exhausting than the payoff. So again, concert's great. I'm not one to sit there for 3 hours and just watch someone perform. It can be taxing. Maybe I go to too many rap shows where it's like a lot of yelling, and But I mean, Childish Gambino changed my mind about everything, because at the end of the night I was like, wow, like he was great. Snake was great, but I'm in Snake's DJ booth in Vegas, hanging out with him all the time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that special to me. But you know what it was? There's not enough to do. Call me a kid, make a Step Brothers joke, whatever. I like activities. So I'm like, where's the fucking ping pong? Where's the slip and slide? And I know that's more like ravey, but there's nothing to fucking do, dude. You're just walking around staring at people with fucking masks on their face. Like oh,
Yeah.
And then I'm like taking pictures with a bunch of sweaty dudes.
I'm kind of the same way, but I'm kind of jaded by concerts because, again, being in the industry, running sound, I see this all the time. So when I'm watching a concert, I'm more looking at like the rigging and the PA more than the band. I'm like, I see what people aren't seeing. And but again, I've been around concerts. I mix sound 5 nights a week. So to me, it's more about just kind of like going in for a couple hours and then leaving. I really don't. I get the full on backstage, go in the back, do the whole thing, free open bar.
I don't know.
But I'm not even like that hyped up on it, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they think VIP means, but the VIP there, the drinks were more expensive than in the general admission, and the VIP to me, I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
I work for for Empire Polo Grounds. The owner of the whole grass property, that's my boss.
Yeah.
So he hooks us up with like the legit pass. So like it's like basically having like the golden whatever, like the magic wand. So and we have this whole little compound off site to where
with the spread.
So like when people are driving through Coachella, all the traffic, I cut right through it. Park. I'm like 50 yards away from Coachella, the stage.
Okay, so what's up?
So
if I'm going with you, I'm going.
If you go, then you'll be taken care of very well, because
if I get the spread in the back,
I get the parking
that changes
pass,
everything.
You just cruise through everything. I never have to wait, and it's pretty sick. Not to brag, but it's sick. So
I'm down.
If you're ever in town and around that time,
let's do it.
You never know. All right, Slobby, we're gonna get out of here.
All right, it's a deal.
Your pizza's getting cold, man.
I don't give a fuck.
All right, sweet. Well,
thanks to Libra.
Yeah, thank you to Libra, Bradley, Francis, Ricky, and the crew and everything. So
gorgeous.
So at least next time you come
really
to the desert,
to
think Libra. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Bro, you're on your way to LA. You're on your way to LA from Phoenix, Tucson, Vegas.
Perfect. Sick. All right, Robbie.
All right, thanks, y'all.